So, I've been wanting to do this type of video for a really long time, or whenever I say this type of video, I mean just sitting here and talking. Recently, I had a video, I'd say almost all of you know about it, the Club Penguin video. It blew up. That's the only phrase I can really use. I got 1.5 million views on it. Completely insane. I went from 2,000 subscribers to 18,000 now. For a whole week, I was just contemplating what kind of video can I do. I need to make something that people will like, but you know, all this kind of stuff. So for a whole week, I was stressing about it, and eventually it just got too much and I just couldn't think of an idea. So I made the Wii Sports video, and you know, it's a decent video, but it's not the best. Throughout this week, I was like, okay, I have to make a really good video now. I couldn't think of anything. But then today at school, you know, I was sitting with my sitting in class talking with my friends. We were talking about PBS Kids, as you do, and it just came to me. You have all these YouTubers making tier lists, so I thought, why can't I make a tier list? So I decided, what better thing to do than a PBS Kids show tier list? So I wish I could say that I knew all the PBS Kids shows. I wish I could be that big of a fan, but sadly I can't. So I looked up, as you would, list of PBS Kids shows. So I'm just going to read them off. First of all, we have Wildcrats. Now, I'd say this is at least an A tier. This is just a good show, great story, great villains, just great. The nostalgia also helps. I used to watch this show all the time. You know, whenever they would just transform into like a shark or something, that was pretty cool. So yeah, I'd give this maybe an A. For this video, I would like to give every single one of these shows S tier, because to be honest, in my opinion, they all deserve it. But I have to make it interesting, you know, have to mix it up a little bit, because really all these shows I would give S, but I have to save it for the really good ones. So next we have Odd Squad. Now, I'm 15 years old, right? So during my era of watching PBS Kids, Odd Squad wasn't really in that. I wasn't really in that time. I have seen some episodes whenever my sister would watch it or something. It's not bad. It's a decent show, but I don't really have the nostalgia for it, so I'm gonna give it maybe a C tier. Okay, so the next one is Arthur. Now, I don't want to just, you know, jump to the tier list, but this is definitely an S tier. This is by far, I think, the best show on PBS Kids. Not just the nostalgia factor, which is a big part, but it's also just a really good show. Like, I could watch it now and still enjoy it. It's just... Okay, so next, we have Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. Now, I don't think there's any shows on PBS that deserves the F tier except for Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. I love Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, right? It's one of the best shows on TV in general. And then they have the audacity to replace it with Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. Like, what were they thinking? You can't replace it like that. So, I digress. Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood is probably the only show on this list to get an F tier. The next one on the list, Sesame Street. You know, this one's just a classic PBS Kids show, right? Everybody likes Sesame Street, so it gets at least a B. But, you know, of course I have some nostalgia for it, but it's not as nostalgic as the other one, so I'm going to keep it at a B tier. Now the next one, Curious George. This one is one of, if not, you know, in the top 3 best shows on PBS Kids. Same thing with Arthur. It's just nostalgic and it's a good show. There's not really much to say about Curious George except for the movie. The movie was crazy. Next, we have Super Y. I want to give this like a B tier, but it's just like nostalgic. It's so nostalgic. I used to play the Super Y game on pbskids.org, and I would print out the certificates. Yes, I was one of those kids. Super Y, it's just not that good of a show. Like, it's very nostalgic, but I don't know. It's just not that good. So I'm going to give it C tier. So next is Dinosaur Train. Once again, This is not super nostalgic for me, although this was during the era that I watched PBS Kids. It was during the later era, so it's not as, you know, doesn't connect with me as much. But it's still good nonetheless, so I'd give it like maybe, I'd say it's in the same category as Super Y. It's kind of the same thing, so I'd give it C as well. Cyberchase, okay? I never watched a full episode of this show. I never really watched the show very much, but the parts I did watch were absolutely terrifying. Like Motherboard, I'll show a picture. It's scary. Just imagine you're a 5-year-old, you're flipping through channels and you're like, hey, I'm gonna watch some PBS Kids. You flip on and then you see this. Although it is a good show, I'm gonna knock it down to a B tier because it's spooky, mildly spooky. So next we have Sid the Science Kid. This is a good show, right? I would watch it often because whenever I would come home from school, this would be on usually. Like, I'm a big fan of science, and this might be part of the reason, I don't know, but just the actual show itself isn't very good. Sid the Science Kid, maybe a C as well. Like I said, not many of these are going to get below a C. Like, none of them except for Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, which sucks. None of them are going to get an F tier. Probably none are going to get D tier because I just really love all these shows too much. PBS Kids is just holds a dear place in my heart. But I'm getting off topic. Let's go to the next one. Next we have Electric Company. Now, this show, okay, this show is like a suppressed memory. I don't remember watching a full episode, but I do remember seeing certain parts, and there is one episode I do remember. This show was crazy. First of all, boots and cuts. I learned to beatbox from this show. There's one episode I remember where it had like a little pocket watch thing. One sec. It was this hypnotizing thing, okay? It had a little pocket watch, and you swing it back and forth, and it hypnotized them. I don't remember anything else from that episode. I just remember there was hypnotism. So, really, the two things I remember from the show was beatboxing and hypnotism. I'll give it A tier. Next, okay, this one holds a dear place in my heart. WordGirl, right? This show checked all the boxes, okay? Had great villains, so many of them too. It was very diverse set of villains, very diverse set of characters in general. Just like with all these, I have like very weird memories from all of them. There's specific things that stand out to me, like how WordGirl could like read an entire book in like 3 seconds. That was crazy. This was a great show. I'm gonna give it an S tier. I love this show so much. The next two I don't remember. So Word World, okay? This was crazy. All the characters were made out of words, alright? I mean, what else is there to say? This gets a C for ABC. That was a terrible joke. Okay. Next we have Barney. It's a classic. Just for the nostalgia, for the long-runningness of the show, it gets an A. It's just, you know, it's a classic. So Fetch with Rough Ruffman. This is a good show. I remember this show. It was so cool because like you had the animated segment, and then they crawl through a doghouse, and then they're you know, live. That gets an A tier, possibly an S tier. I'll think about that, but for now, A tier. Clifford the Big Red Dog. This was the one I was going to mention. I had a CD game of this that I got from Chick-fil-A, I think. It was a Clifford phonics game. You're at the carnival, okay? You play all these games. That game is still fun to this day. Like, I will play this. I've played it recently, actually. Like, this is a fun game, okay? Like, the show was great and all. They made a movie that was, like, 3D animated, I think. Maybe not, but they made a movie that was kind of goofy. So the show itself is decent. The show alone would get a B tier. But because of that game, the game is so nostalgic, it gets an A tier. Okay, so I skipped a few more. Dragon Tales, I never really watched it until... Well, I watched it whenever I was like 2, so I don't really remember anything from that. But I also had a CD game of that too, so that's something. But there's a few I'm going to skip over. Yeah, so like I said, most of these I haven't seen. There's a big section of PBS Kids shows that are too, you know, old for, you know, my time. But JJ the Jet Plane, I never watched it because it was canceled before I got around, but I do have a DVD of JJ the Jet Plane. And can I just say that they were scary, and Pixar also copied JJ the Jet Plane, just putting that out there. Alright, so that's the end of the video. I know this was kind of boring. I hope I made it a little bit entertaining. If you like this video, make sure to like it. If you haven't subscribed, you can do that. I don't care. Actually, I do care. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more PBS Kids content. I really don't know what else to say, so I'm just going to say bye. See you fellas later.